your audience will find easiest to do, either the.
And this is going to be a very interesting meeting tonight. We're thrilled to have our award winner, Adam Flint, talking to us, and we're going to recognize him as soon as we have some announcements. And then people can add their own 2 cents as to what they know about Adam and what they want to share, why you think he would or is deserving of the Lynda Spickard Environmental Award, because the Sierra Club Susquehanna group certainly thinks that. I'm going to mute everybody, and when you want to speak, unmute yourself. I think we're all muted now. Okay, except me. And I'll try to keep my announcements short. Just want to go over some upcoming events. And next month, on February 12th, we will have a concert. Tom Nielsen, who gave a concert that we sponsored a little over a year ago. And he will be doing some type of a virtual concert, of course. So February 12th, and Tom, if I can find my note about him, will be highlighting connections between climate disruption, social justice, and economic suffering. Tom is known for his musical satire and social commentary. So for February 12th, that's a Friday night. I don't know the time yet. You will be notified if we have your email address. We'll try to put some notices out on some other channels or other online areas too, including our website. Then on February 16th, our monthly meeting, which will be on Zoom, we will be having Chris Stanton from Northland Power, which is the Bluestone project. They're running that project now. And Valdi Wiederpass gets credit for getting Chris to agree to come and talk to us. And Valdi, maybe you could say a few things about that. And I also want to mention Valdi is going to take over as the chair. I will step down from that position for now. But Valdi and I like to say we're having a smooth transition, right, Valdi?
Yes. So. Yes, I appreciate everything Scott has done for the last 8 years as chair. That's a long time. Scott's done a wonderful job keeping the meetings organized, both the executive committee meetings, which are behind the scene that the general membership doesn't see. But a lot of work gets done on a volunteer basis by the executive committee offline that people aren't aware of. Hundreds of hours of effort go into it. And this is beyond even the meeting time, which is once a month that we hold, usually around the 2-hour meeting that we have to try to keep this group organized. And I've been part of the executive committee for many years now. I think I joined the group back around 2014, if I remember correctly, when the fracking fight was getting hot and heavy. First meeting I went to was a meeting that former Mayor Matt Ryan gave a good talk on. And as Scott said, I think we're going to have a smooth transition. We've got the same group as the executive committee carrying on here, assuming that people received votes, but there weren't anybody running against them. So I assume they all got reelected, and they've been doing a fine job here. And I appreciate all the work of the other executive committee members, and I hope that people that are members of our local group that are in the area will at least consider volunteering some time when we even ask for a simple thing like contacting an elected official or signing a petition, or even doing something in person if we get past this coronavirus crisis, which I know that has made things difficult. But we've got a lot of challenges ahead. Getting control of the Senate back and the White House back is not enough. We need to keep pushing people. Climate change is still our #1 problem that we need to keep effort on. So thank you. And also I want to chime in, make a few comments about Adam Flint. He's been
Hey, Baldy, sorry. We'll get to that.
Okay, fine.
If you don't mind.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm expecting more people to have some comments about Adam, and we'll do that all kind of together.
Okay.
As soon as we finish up the announcements. And do you want to say anything about next month's meeting with Bluestone?
Sure. Bluestone, I know, is still a very controversial project with many people in the specific towns that the project will be built in. But it is a very important, vital project for our area. And I don't know if you saw, but I ended up on TV, part of my official comments that I gave to the Broome County Industrial Development Agency. Basically what I summarized was that the project will provide enough electricity to satisfy the current residential demand of the entire Triple Cities city limits, which is roughly 80,000 people. That's a big step forward for our area. So when this project actually starts construction, which is right now, they're starting to clear trees as far as my understanding, although I haven't got confirmation of that from Chris Stanton. But Chris Stanton has been very gracious in providing information to the towns, to the county, and it's gone through a rigorous approval process with multiple opportunities for public comment, and he's agreed to give us a good talk on wind power in general, how important it is because the immense amount of power it can capture and deliver, and it doesn't rely on sunshine. They can generate power at night too, so it dovetails well with solar. And this project is also going to add 10 megawatts of battery-based storage too, which is necessary. And he's going to focus on the Bluestone project in particular. And also, just to let you know, we are continuing to advocate for use of appropriate technology, best available technology, to protect golden and bald eagles, which is one of the major potential problems that the Audubon Society pointed out with regard to the siting of this particular project. But we hope that they do a good job in trying to protect those species, and we're still advocating on behalf of that. So thank you.
Okay, Wally, thanks. We'll have any other announcements. I know Adam has another event this week. It's in the chat. If you can look at that, Heat Smart Southern Tier virtual webinar. And Adam, do you want to say anything about that in addition to what's in the chat?
Yeah, just really quickly, one of our many energy programs at the Network for a Sustainable Tomorrow is Heat Smart at Southern Tier, and our final webinar, which I will post again, because if you don't come on before the post, you don't see it. The final webinar in our series, which began in September, is going to be quite interesting. It'll be focused on a heat pump installation in Oxford, New York, and our partner there, Dave Tierno of AirSource LLC, is going to do a live video walkthrough. So if you are interested, just go to our website at nynest.org and register. It's Thursday at noon for 55 minutes. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Adam. So it's a really great turnout tonight. I'm very pleased. And we have some Nest people. Welcome. We have some public officials. And we have some former recipients of the Lynda Spickard Award. Let me just mention what this award is. We have recognized, I think it's 12 people. Don't hold me to that number. One of these days I'm going to compile that list. But the first one that we gave the award to was Chris Berger. And I'll mention the other people I know that are here. But the award itself recognizes people who have made a long-standing contribution to helping our local environment. And it's just amazing how many people are doing that. So besides Chris, Julian Shepard is with us tonight, Augie Mueller, Gay Knuff, and Jack Davis. So you guys, I'm glad you're joining. We know you support our continued efforts to work on the local environment. So did I miss anybody as far as any previous Lynda Spickard Award winners? Maybe some of you will get it next year or soon, but okay, hearing that I didn't, then we will move to talking a little bit about Adam. I've known Adam, gosh, well over 10 years. He goes back to the fracking days in the late 2008 period, somewhere there, and much earlier than that. He had other areas of advocacy, but what he's done more recently is working work for Sustainable Tomorrow, which used to be called the Binghamton Regional Sustainability Coalition. Back in 2014, Adam founded the Southern Tier Solar Works as part of the coalition, or we always BRISC. And he's also co-founded Energy Democracy Alliance, has worked on energy policy in New York, including reforming the energy vision, has close connections with places like NYSERDA and New York BEST. He really was helpful to Valdi and myself, getting us lined up with someone who knew about battery recycling. And we had a good talk trying to understand what might be happening in Endicott. I'm not going to get into that, but Adam's connections helped out. He, of course, is promoting renewables and promoting geothermal. Adam, why don't you have solar panels on your house again? Tell everybody.
I live in a forest. Some other time I can tell you the story about when Wendy from Gay came out here, took one look, and was like, why did you call me out here? Too much shade. Too much shade.
But you do have something, which is very
I have a geothermal system.
Right.
Like Dr. Shepard, among others.
Yeah, so there's that. And of course, you've been promoting community solar. You've helped set up some programs there. You've run countless workshops, and you've got another one coming up this week, trying to get people to both help the environment and save money. You can do that with things like renewable energy. So I'm going to pass the hat on to whoever else now wants to talk about what they know about or of Adam, and just unmute yourself and we'll let you have the floor.
Well, I guess
maybe I'll lead off, given that, as Scott mentioned, I was the first recipient of this award, and I really have been so pleased with seeing all the recipients from that time forward. Adam, I can't think of anyone more deserving, though I guess I say that about everybody who comes up. But I guess what stands out in my mind, I think Adam and I probably interface more than on so many things, more than just about anybody else on this call. So I get to see him up close and personal in many different arenas, and he's just so dynamic and a real spark plug in all those areas. So you're waving at me.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
your position in Nest might be useful for people to know.
Well, yeah. Okay. So yeah, I could mention numerous ones, but certainly as chair of Nest, Adam co-founded. There's a lot of people on this call that co-founded with us, but he and I were together on that endeavor. And as has already been mentioned, he operates a number of our major programs. And I want to make it clear that it could be easily interpreted as, okay, we hired Adam to do that, but no, he developed those programs, so it goes beyond just him running it. He was the spark plug behind these initiatives. So anything we have to do with solar is all on account of Adam. So again, I think is well deserving of this award, and I'm just pleased that he's recognized in this way.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Baldy, you were going to say some things?
Yes. One thing I want to mention about Adam is that besides just locally, he's involved with what's happening in Albany with legislation and with advocating for legislation and for helping to change that legislation for the better. And he has been involved in giving even seminars to people here locally to help them learn how to get up in front of a crowd and have something to say as a formal comment, and how to make that relatable, make it personal if you can, and talk about what's important to you in your life, to get legislators and public officials to listen to you. So that's a very important thing too. So it's besides the everyday stuff that he does with trying to help people improve their insulation and energy audits and efficiency of how they're using energy with heat pumps and geothermal and solar, and helping to develop solar farms in the area. I mean, and Adam's been a great public speaker too. He's given multiple press conferences in favor of renewable energy, and also to help organize young people behind the scenes. He has helped organize climate strikes in the area to help the students get those put together, and that's a wonderful thing. So Adam really truly deserves this. And thank you, Adam, for all your work for so many years.
Okay, thanks, Baldy. For those who joined a little late, we're sharing stories of Adam right now. And if you've got any to share.
Can I pick up on what Valdi said?
Sure.
I wanted to this is my first meeting with you guys, but I wanted to come on because of Adam getting this award, because it is this, Valdi mentions toward the end, this educational component. And I know that he's really worked with students at the university, with a lot of my environmental studies students and sustainable community students, and working with them not only to organize them on these issues, but to professionalize them and to, to really help them understand how these things have to work and how you have to get some of these things done. And so that was something that I really noticed and appreciated about what he's been able to bring to these efforts.
Thanks. Anyone else?
Hello, this is Gay.
Yeah, Gay, hi.
Yeah, Adam has the gift of perseverance, which is so important, especially in pushing forward renewable energy. He has been tirelessly doing that, which we really need. Another thing I want to mention is the continual hiring of interns, and that is a great training thing for the younger people. I have actually benefited from that at my company. I've hired some of those interns. So thank you very much, Adam, for your continued work.
Thanks, Gay.
I'd just like to say a few words. I've known Adam for longer than he would care to admit. And I'd just like to add that he has other parts of his character too. We're talking about his environmental efforts, but he is also a very talented violinist and has played with orchestras and played with me too, although that's not a badge of honor. But he's also, in an earlier life, actually, he was very involved with Latin American affairs and did a great deal sort of pushing for peace and other initiatives, particularly in El Salvador.
Thanks, Julian.
Yep.
Yes.
David Curry, you were going to say something?
Yes, please, if I can. I could sum this all up in just like maybe 3 words, but I'll start with the first word: indefatigable. Adam is indefatigable. He just never stops. He's like the train that keeps on going. But really, in the years that I've known Adam and worked with him and collaborated with him, I see him as a passionate, committed hero for sustainability, for a better world for others, and especially for the community in which we all live. So it's been a fun, I guess about 13 years, Adam, 13 or 14 years. And I am honored to call you my friend.
Nice. So everyone knows we're recording tonight's meeting, and I don't know, has that started yet, Chris Arasta?
Yes, it has.
Okay, that's fine. We have Adam's permission.
May I say something?
Yes, please.
Well, I've known Adam in a few different contexts, but one of them, this piggybacks on what Dave just said, was that I and Adam would sometimes run into each other at the Java Joe's, beloved in memory, gone now, on State Street. And I would go in there by myself or with a friend, and we'd get our coffee and so forth and just relax. And there's Adam at another table, and he's got a phone going, and he's got a laptop going, and he's constantly working. He's a maniac.
Yeah.
Right, Dave?
A lot of us have seen that.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we have time for 1 or 2 more. We'd like to get Adam talking to us shortly, but anyone else?
Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
My name is Mick. I'm the mother of Adam's kids. And I just wanted to say that, like, his passion for these issues and the work that he's put into it has rubbed off on his children. And his daughter, Marielle, our 14-year-old, is an incredible activist in her own right. Like, she's participated and organized some of the climate strike stuff herself. And you know, so it's been more than something that he does as a job. It's something that he has really passed along to his family as well.
Thank you,
So,
Nick. Very nice.
great job, Adam.
I just want to say something quick. Just congratulate Adam. I'm probably the farthest away and the least amount of time that's known Adam, but the couple years that we've got to know him, working with the eSmart program has been great. And congratulations, Adam.
Thank you.
But if I may say one more thing, it's almost too obvious, but there's so many people in the environmental stuff that they're really good at protesting and being against something. And I'll just take the fracking just as one big example. And certainly Adam was very much involved in the anti-fracking. But even more to the point, he has gone beyond that and offered the alternative, which is, I think, is so important for anybody who's in the environmental space. We need to be against things, but equally, if not more important, you got to be for something, and Adam epitomizes that.
Great, Chris. That's a great lead into what Adam's going to talk to us about tonight. So if we can get to that, and Adam would appreciate everyone holding off questions until he's done, and then we can allow for questions at that point. So tonight, he will be talking to us about taking sustainable communities to the next level, a look back into possible futures. So he's got a positive message for us, and he's looking for a community. And I'm going to get him to take over and welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, before I get started, I just really want to thank the Sierra Club and all of my friends and colleagues and family of many, many years. I'm honored and touched by this award, and I will say that it's very timely. This is a very challenging town to get things done and as you all know, just as well as I do. And it's sometimes a lonely road, especially during a pandemic. So I just wanted to say it means a great deal to me that you've done this. And I also am very honored to follow in the footsteps of people like Chris and Julian and Dick Andrus, of course, and others. So thank you. And I would be remiss if I didn't do this. This is let me turn this background off so that you can actually see this thing. So this is the Weighty Award.
Right there, I see it better. Okay.
This weighs, I would say, about 15 pounds. So I was joking with Scott. We used to go to the gym together to do yoga, and now I can just lift this, and I'm all good. It's really beautiful. I really appreciate this. This will have a place of honor in the living room. Thanks again. And obviously, the tributes were given that also indicate that this is a team effort. I mean, I mentioned just one earlier, Gay Kanoff. If it weren't for Gay, I mean, she was our initial teacher. You gave me credit for founding that program. Well, Gay gets the credit for educating me and my team on solar. And you see Ryan there. Ryan is from Daily Electric, a geothermal company way up in Penyan. And he's one of our partners now, and I'm learning from him. And all of you have been my teachers and colleagues in one form or another, pretty much. So on to what I'm going to talk about today, which might be a little surprising. We'll see. We talk a lot about sustainability in our all too small world here in our community. And what I wanted to discuss tonight was thinking a little bit beyond what we usually think about in terms of our sustainability work here. And I'm not talking about the 3 pillars of sustainability. I'm talking about the fact that even after many of you have worked my adult lifetime on this, or longer, we still have a community that's very fragmented, that's very fragile. And obviously the pandemic has exposed many fragile, broken things. And so it strikes me that both as a matter of, frankly, survival and recovery from the pandemic, and also as an investment in a truly sustainable community, we can take this horrific situation as an opportunity. As we're all aware, there's no rational person at this point that can pretend that any of our systems are functioning acceptably. And this is a historic evening, the evening before President-elect Biden's inauguration. We obviously have some hopes there, some of which will be realized, others not so much. But we remain a very long way from shore. Now the tide seems to have turned. But what I want to do is talk a little bit about the history of the organization that several of us here helped create, through the lens of how can we build the kind of community that can bring us through this pandemic quicker and more successfully than we have thus far managed to do, and set the stage for making all of our work easier. And by all, I don't even just mean the sustainability community, I mean all. So our organization, as some have mentioned, was founded in 2008. At that time, it was called the Binghamton Regional Sustainability Coalition. And as some of you will recall, just a few short months later, it was founded in the spring, and then in the summer, us urbanites and suburbanites became aware of what many rural people had known for a while, which is that fracking was on its way, or so we thought. And that really consumed the work of the organization, which, as Chris mentioned, was really created to create more than to oppose. But we saw an existential threat when we knew an existential threat when we saw one. Spent a couple of years, but I want to think about what conclusions to draw from that. That situation emerged because this economy, not just of Broome County, but of our region, had been in trouble for decades, right? So there was a degree of economic desperation that drove some people to want to lease land for fracking, to get involved in that. There was also no shortage of greed and misinformation. And we were pretty susceptible to that greed and disinformation as a community divided. And we became divided, not just here, but across the Southern Tier around this issue. Lastly, we don't have, as part of, never mind our culture here in our community, but in the culture of this country, a seventh generation understanding of how to live in harmony with our environment. And so, thinking about that made me think a little bit about what we need to do to avoid that in future, right? Here we are, we have another crisis on our hands. This time, it's a different sort of crisis. I don't think that we built what we needed to build from that last one. So the organization started really with a focus on clean energy as its more vital or energetic program, initially in partnership with Cornell Cooperative Extension in Broome County. And then in 2014, we managed to raise a little money and started to work independently. As we started to work, the reverberations of the fracking fight were loud, right? Those divisions, the ideological nature of how different forms of energy were looked at really limited our work in the beginning. But as relationships developed over time, as we were able to connect, it became less relevant whether a person was from this party or that, or considered themselves conservative or liberal or what have you, always with exceptions. But today, there's more and more people who look and see the value of clean energy, regardless of party or other considerations. Some of our best champions in the 4-county area we serve are Republican village mayors. And, earlier tonight, we had the Environmental Management Council meeting, and Chris, my gosh, I'm forgetting his name now, our county legislator from Endicott, who is actually a Republican, is has been one of our biggest champions. We'll come back to
Jason Shaw.
Jason Shaw. Yeah. And so, I take away from that and from subsequent work just how important it is to build deeper, broader, more complex and numerous ties of trust and communication in a community, so that when crisis strikes, you have that foundation, right? You have that to draw on, and I'll develop that a little further. I'll give a negative example, and Dave Curry is with us here. Dave worked tirelessly for years as the leader of the Many Hands Food Co-op project. He got grants, he got supporters. At the end of the day, there were reasons why it didn't succeed. And those continue with my theme. Anchor institutions did not act like anchor institutions. They did not step up. They did not mobilize the resources necessary for a co-op, a food co-op in this day and age, in a community like this to succeed. There was also turf, right? And a scarcity mentality rather than a collaborative mentality. Now, I will say that in the years that I've been involved in this work, things have definitely gotten better than they were, no question. I think part of that is born of desperation, frankly, and also seeing things just not work over and over again. But we have a long way to go with that. And so again, building those ties is so important. Then just fast forwarding quickly, this last year, our organization decided to rename itself Network for a Sustainable Tomorrow for a number of reasons. And I will give credit where credit is due. My associate director, Haley Delisle, who unfortunately is not feeling well, came up with this idea, and we ran with it. And it really suits us well. First off, we're not really a coalition at this point. In the beginning, we started out wanting to build something like that, but we're really more of a network. As a network, we have convened and catalyzed and incubated a lot of worthwhile projects. Some have not succeeded, but most have. The Tier Energy Network, which has been an independent organization for almost a year now, I think, was fiscally sponsored by this organization. And I and a number of other folks were instrumental in starting it up. But other people are running it now. It's not our organization. It's an organization in its own right that's doing good work in the community. Earth Day Southern Tier is a different sort of example. Earth Day Southern Tier has been around a good long time, longer than Brisk. But we have taken them into our fold as a fiscally sponsored organization as a matter of efficiency, and also because it makes sense in terms of these relationships. The Broome Community Land Trust is one of our most exciting projects currently, and this one definitely will leave the nest soon, pun intended. The Broome Community Land Trust, for those of you who aren't aware, has been around for a year and a little bit. And this is the kind of land trust that is about providing affordable housing in perpetuity for people in need in our community, starting in the city. But the objective is to go beyond that. And the most important part of this work, and it's true about a lot of our work as well, is that the people who are most directly need to be the ones that are having ownership and making decisions. And so a lot of time has been spent doing capacity building and education and building what I'm confident will be the first board of directors, which will be seated within the next quarter or two. And then it'll be a question of getting the big money, buying property, rehabbing homes, probably partnering with developers in some cases, and holding that property in perpetuity and trust so that it's outside of the market. It can never be gentrified. The houses will be bought and sold, but that will be a controlled process. Finally, my immediate labor of love, workforce development. We are working together with a wide variety of agencies and organizations that you're all familiar with, from the Urban League to Cornell Cooperative Extension to school districts and so forth. And our objective here is to have a structure that draws on all these organizations, that allows people who have had challenges to employment to be able to move into employment, but specifically into employment related to sustainability in the broadest sense of the word, through a program called Roots of Success. This is not yet a publicly existing thing. We're discussing this. There's still always the danger that it will not work out, but I'm pretty confident that it will. And this is a program that has been around for more than a decade, even though many of us just found out about it recently. It is, among its partners includes the U.S. Green Building Council. It was front and center during the Obama administration as part of the green jobs efforts of that administration. And it really does two things in addition to work readiness. It gives confidence to candidates who are in the program about their ability to carry out activities, have skills in the sustainability arena. And it also gives them a sense of mission, right? And so when we're talking about jobs in this area in transportation, for example, we're not just talking about, being an engineer at BAE Systems and building buses. We're talking about driving and maintaining the buses. We're not talking just about, hopefully, the dream of Chris Berger, which is a zero waste facility. We've got waste facilities right now. And so doing that hard work becomes more meaningful when it's part of a bigger cause. So let's move on now to talking about where we're at right now, which is not a great place. We have a triple crisis on our hands. We have the pandemic, we have the economic fallout from that pandemic, and we have a political crisis. I'm not going to belabor these, but just briefly, we know the numbers. 400,000 plus dead already, and we're told it will be up to 500,000 by the end of next month. We've done better than most states here in New York, but that's a low bar. The reality is that we haven't really done what I think we're capable of doing. And I will say very clearly that this is not meant to be a critique of overworked, under-resourced, dedicated public officials and others that have been working tirelessly for months. They're doing the best they can with what they have. They don't have enough. And I'm not talking principally about money here. And I feel that if we are able to take certain steps, which I'll discuss partly later, to bring our community around a communication strategy to begin with, that will help us have a sense of common purpose, trust, solidarity, and communication, that we just might be able to get more people to follow the COVID protocols and to say yes to the vaccine. Because as I'm sure you're aware, in the state as a whole, only three quarters of people say that they're going to accept the vaccine. Knowing how the demographics and politics of this state works with New York City and upstate, I'm sure our numbers are worse here. That can't be allowed to continue. Our economy, we've got a $14 billion state deficit, yet our governor refuses to raise taxes on the 120 billionaires resident in the state. And BIPOC, that is people of color, indigenous people, low-income people, have borne the greatest brunt of all of these crises. They've died and sickened at higher numbers, and they are in worse economic shape than many of us. And at the same time, many thousands have dropped into poverty, in addition to those who were already there and have dropped further. Finally, we have a political crisis, and now we feel some hope on the eve of the inauguration to turn around from this galloping corruption and political cowardice that has occupied our seats of government and closely related to unprecedented inequality. The 10 richest billionaires in the world increased their wealth $319 billion last year. And a lot of that happened in this state. We have more billionaires in this state than in almost any other similar geographic area. And I think the last thing that I really should mention is that we've really, I think those of us who thought we knew what was going on, we thought we had a beat on things, I don't think we realized how deeply rooted and virulent the racism in this country really was, everywhere. And so now we have what Malcolm X would have referred to as the chickens coming home to roost. That is, the federal government is concerned that the National Guard might have been infiltrated by white supremacists. We've seen off-duty police officers, as we've always known, joining with their comrades, white supremacists, in the taking of the Capitol. So, you know, the Black Lives Matter protests over the summer happened. It was a historic occasion, and yet the structural changes have not been made. Now there's a lot of concern when we're talking about the guard that is guarding the seat of government. Maybe if we had taken Black people being killed or threatened as seriously as we should have years ago, we wouldn't have come to this point. So let's drop down right to the point here. COVID protocols aren't being followed sufficiently. Too many people say they're unwilling to take the vaccine. So what is to be done about this? I had a bit of an epiphany after I encountered an area of public health called risk communication. I am not a public health expert, and here's where I'm going to confess that I'm not as far along in this idea as I would like to be, but I'm going to expose the process, right, by which I'm hoping it will actually take root and develop. Risk communication, quite simply, is the practice by which public health professionals during a public health crisis can effectively communicate what people need to do and not do in ways that are trusted, accurate, timely, and accessible. Now, that's just sort of the tip of the iceberg. To do that, in an ideal circumstance, public health officials, they know their communities backwards and forwards, inside and out. They're connected with everybody because everybody is connected with everybody. That's not where most people in the United States live, including here. And so, you know, the voices that are urging people to do the right thing, they're at a distance from most people. They're at arm's length. They're not personal. So what if, just as a beginning, what if every person that could call themselves a leader in the sense that they have a social network where people consider them to be someone they can trust, right? Someone they respect and listen to, someone who maybe they wouldn't want to disappoint. What if all of them, all of us, had a united message, a very simple message, right? And I'm not going to say that this would be the message because there are professionals that would help craft that, and I'll get to that. But, you know, we're all in this together. If we want to reopen, if we want to go back to something approximating normal life and stop the sickness and death and the economic destruction, it's clear what must be done. And if that message was coming, I won't necessarily say face-to-face under the circumstances, but directly from clergy to parishioners, from employers to employees, from neighbors to neighbors, you get the point. So how to accomplish this? It's obviously not something that costs money, but it's not necessarily easy to achieve either. And there's more that needs to be done. So one of the things that NEST did at its inauguration, if you will, was to hold a regional summit last fall. And that was focused on bringing together the sustainability ecosystem, right? People who are, if any of you here, some of you participated, to find ways to work together. And we did that. We largely focused on zero waste, which Chris is leading up, and on workforce development, sustainability, which I am helping to lead up. However, what if we were to have a summit whereby the key leaders in the situation, which begins with the county, right? The counties across the United States have the primary frontline responsibility for dealing with this pandemic. Alas, they've had too much responsibility. But when it comes to messaging, the counties are really kind of it, right? I mean, we get stuff from the governor. It ain't bad, but I think we're all well aware of how unpopular that man is in our neck of the woods among a range of people. So that's not necessarily the trusted, beloved voice that is going to get people to do the right thing, right? So if it's possible to first to identify best practices from communities that have done this, and I've started in motion on that. There's a wonderful organization that I just want to bring to your attention called Engaging Local Government Leaders, which is not a very sexy name, but it's an association that started 8 years ago with 16 people. They now have 4,800 members from all 50 states, plus Canada, UK, Israel, and Australia. And it's basically a brain trust of the best and the brightest in municipal governance. And they use all kinds of communications techniques and conferences, and they exchange information with the objective, and I'm quoting here, of fostering authentic and meaningful connections that are grounded in practices of equity and inclusion. 4,800. And guess what? One of the senior planners over at our neighbors in Tompkins County is actually newly on the board. And there's another professional up in Syracuse that is part of this. We're going to be talking, hopefully this week. And I want to find out, where have things been done that have worked? What are those things? I have some ideas about what those things are, but I know, and you know, that no one is a prophet in their own land, especially me. And so I'm going to be counting on each and every one of you, as well as other people of influence, to take a hard look at what I'm talking about and to see, you know, is this a plausible thing? Because the only way this works is if key players decide to take it on as something that they want to plan. That is a summit to put this together, a summit to bring people together to create the change that we want to see. Nest running that, not worth doing, not going to do it. I call it the circuit breaker. I do the homework, I bring together the information, I share it out to the key leadership, or other people do that on my behalf. And if there is commitment on the planning level, I'm not expecting the county executive to go to meetings, that would be silly, but he's got people, right? And the health department, they got people too. I'm also, you know, thinking about the chamber and the IDA that have done really stellar work in their area, which is business and the economy. And so, you know, if there's that buy-in, if there's really that buy-in, then we can take it to the next level. That's sort of the stress test. And then at that meeting, we would be able to, first of all, I will find a really, really, really good facilitator, not me, someone else. I will somehow find money to pay that person. And we'll want to, I think, map out what is the picture of our community's social networks, right? Who are the trusted institutions? Who are the trusted individuals for different types of people? And let's be clear here. There is an ideological cause which is horrific, but we know it, right? There have been people, such as our departed leader, who must not be named, who have divided us and have turned what should be a straightforward matter of science and survival into a political battleground. That's going to be hard to fight. That means that people who are bedrock conservatives, people who are Republicans, people who are in the world of those who have, for whatever reason, chosen to listen to those voices, they are going to be the most important people of all. Because people who have taken those voices seriously are sure as hell not going to listen to people like us, right? We know this. So I'm going to end at this point, and I'm actually in shock that I kept to a half an hour, so I did not time this speech. I want to thank you again for your kindness And I really value and would like to hear what you think of this idea. Is it worth doing? Are you interested in helping? All of that. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. I'll just throw out, it sounds like we need a coalition again.
Well, I think that we need a network first.
Well, okay, let's call it a network.
Yeah, coalitions are high maintenance. Real coalitions involve decision-making where everybody has an appropriate say in appropriate decisions. I mean, for Christ's sake, you're the Sierra Club. You're a membership organization. So you've been around for a few years. You've got a few dollars to rub together, a few thousand people. It's still not easy, right? Who knows? Maybe it will become one. But I think it has to be something that is completely beyond present company to succeed, right? And that's the point. We want to break out of our comfort zone, if you will, or our immediate circles, and impact the community at large. I mean, apart from anything else, if we do this, if we succeed, imagine the difference for everything we all do. And I'm not just talking about the Sierra Club hat. I'm talking about the Julian Shepard professor at Binghamton University hat, or the Ryan Daly, who is a contractor in the geothermal business hat. Everything improves. Everything. If it can be made to work.
When do you see the summit happening, Adam?
Well, obviously time is not on our side, but these things have to be done right. My optimistic side says May. That's my optimistic side. But I mean, that only happens if the ideas are presented and, you know, the key people are like, where do I sign? When do we start? I am not expecting that. To begin with, no one has any time, no one has any money. They're going to have to think it's that important and that, you know, promising that, you know, they'll take somebody who's doing something and have them do this instead of whatever they were doing. I mean, that's the reality, right? Nobody has extra time in their work plan. So it's going to depend on what happens at each stage. So let's say the key leaders do take ownership. Then we got to plan this thing. Honestly, I feel like that's the easier part. I mean, once you have the team, then planning it is more or less understood, particularly if, as I am strongly suggesting, we bring in a hot shit facilitator to help us. I already have one identified. I don't know if we can afford her. And then, of course, the other hard part is actually, you know, if we plan, we make this plan, it's a great plan. We have to execute the plan, and we are counting on the plan working, right? So that's all I can tell you. The true answer is I don't know. That's my best guess.
What do we call it at this point?
Sorry, Jim, say again.
What is the name of the concept at this point?
That is an excellent question. You have any ideas, Jim? I haven't thought up a name.
Okay. I
mean, I don't want to name something before it's actually alive, so maybe that's it. But I obviously you need to be able to refer to these things.
It does need a name. I'll think about it and let you know if I come up with anything.
That'd be good, because you're good at being succinct and I'm not. So
And I'll be intrigued to hear what happens with the places, the other communities that have done better things, if you can find them, because I think that's going to be a roadmap, and not us reinventing the wheel and hoping, but how do we bring people along when they are of such diverse views?
Amen, brother. That's the name of the game. So I'm really hoping that these 4,800 people network. Obviously, I'm hoping that we'll find some examples in communities that look in some way like ours, in some way, right? You know, that are neither Los Angeles nor a village of 300 people. And for preference, a place that is not one of what my friends call the People's Republics: Cambridge, Ann Arbor, Ithaca, etc. Sorry, Ithaca, I love thee dearly, however.
I'm kind of wondering what you envision, how you think this may work, given even the opposition we have locally with people that have positions that don't have very much power in terms of what they can influence and even very much pay, and yet they kind of devolve to mostly partisan decisions. I'm just trying to figure out how we can get past that if these people aren't willing to cooperate. Are you thinking that we can organize community members at large to put pressure on these people, even if they're reluctant? Or I'm just kind of wondering what you're envisioning. Yeah, so this very much rides on what I perceive to be I have no doubt in my mind at all that the health department and the executive are 1,000% committed to beating this thing. And I have the same feeling about the IDA. I have the same feeling about the chamber. I have the same feeling about a bunch of nonprofits. Yeah, are there some people in elected office that are, in la land with this? Yeah, but they're not going to be invited to the initial meeting. I mean, the idea here is to create a core of people that have a sense of reality, want to do the right thing, but don't feel they're empowered to do the right thing, even if they are a senior elected official in the biggest municipality here, with not enough human resources and not a no roadmap. And so I think like any movement, you're really going to have to start with people who are already on board with what it is you're trying to do. And then beyond that, I feel like it's still a minority of people that are hardcore, grudging, just they're not going to move. I think there's too much bigger groups. One of those groups is frankly the easy group. Those are people that many of us know, maybe some of us, I don't know, maybe me. In other words, sometimes we slide, right? Sometimes we slide back a little bit. Sometimes we get tired, we get incautious. And that has a range, right? Those people, once everybody who is at that stage or is very hardcore, like doing the right thing, they're going to feel a huge sense of relief. It's going to be like, oh, hell, we're the majority. We look at all of us, right? And then there's that group that, just does not take things on board. They follow the wind, right? They follow the wind. And if the wind is blowing toward do whatever you damn well please, well, they'll do whatever they damn well please. And if the wind is blowing toward you better do the right thing, they'll do the right thing with social pressure. And then there's that latter group that, nothing's going to move. And I don't want to talk about them right now for a number of reasons. But I think it's a minority report. And I think that, the people in all the other groups that I've identified, how do you feel? I want to get the hell out of this situation as soon as possible, like last month. And so, let's try it. Let's try something, because it's not happening. And, we keep seeing new strains coming out and this and that. And, maybe the vaccines will get to where we need to be and this and that. I no longer am trying to plan my life around optimism. And it's a very psychologically damaging situation that we're living in right now. And most of us are the lucky ones. Most of us have bank accounts that aren't empty and houses that aren't foreclosed and all the rest of it. Sorry, too long-winded. What else have you got?
Hey, Adam, maybe this could be framed so we understand the difference with this community and what some of the things that Nest itself are trying to do. I know there's the subgroups, you've mentioned them, workforce development, sustainability education, and zero waste. So frame it a little bit if you could. I mean,
So I said earlier, and stop me if I'm going down the wrong track, that, I mean, we're a small organization with limited resources, but what we can do and what we have done is bring people together to do new stuff. So that's what this is
yeah,
bringing people together to do new stuff. I would call this a campaign more than I'd call it anything else. I would not call it a coalition. I would not call it a network yet. But maybe it'll become one of those things. But it is basically a campaign to bring the community together around a crisis, a common enemy, if you will, and pursue strategies to defeat the common enemy and, you know, get our lives into some semblance of sanity. And at the same time, though, as I've mentioned, this has an immediate benefit, which is very significant if it works. But it has a longer term benefit. That is, if we actually come together and build these relationships, there's going to be a lot of new relationships. Now, I am not going to minimize the difficulty. Time and money are required for communication, either one or the other or both. And we're not going to have extra to draw on here. We're going to have to figure out how to do it with more or less what we've got now. Maybe a little extra, you know. A few people with pockets could get inspired, but that doesn't happen a lot, especially since there are so many needs right now. But, you know, think about the things that are going on right now. I'm sure you're all well aware of the mutual aid activities that are going on that involve a lot of the students and a lot of community members. I know about the ones in Binghamton. I'm sure they're all over the place. You know about the various social media groups where people are coming together to exchange information. There are spaces where people can talk about stuff, right? Like, I'm a parent. Don't be a parent right now. We talk amongst ourselves about what's going on with school and this and that. That's the kind of place where this can be brought in, right? So where are you already talking with people? You know, for those of you retired, you have your own social networks, you have Lyceum, you have the activities that you've chosen to undertake in retirement, for the most part. For those of us who are still in the workforce, we have those networks. There's professional networks, and then there's a lot of outdoors types in this crowd, right? So I could continue on, and I'll mention faith groups. I imagine there's a decent number of you that consider yourself people of faith. Well, there's another place. And if we can agree on what we want to say and say it, and, you know, and I would be drawing in, so coming back to George's point, we really want to draw on the long and deep expertise in the public health field that I feel like we can tap into through this organization. And so, you know, we really want to get this right. There's no reinventing the wheel necessary. Right? There's people out there doing this stuff. We just got to do it here.
So,
oh yeah, I just want to quickly note, Bev Rainforth mentioned Angela Riley. I know Angela Riley, and it's a very good suggestion. She's definitely one of the short list of folks that I would want to see at the table in this effort. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to add this isn't coming out of, this idea isn't coming out of a vacuum. Adam alluded to it earlier when he mentioned how Nest put together a summit that predominantly was reaching out to the people very directly involved in some and on board basically with sustainability. In a way, in my mind, this is just kind of an extension of that. We were very pleased with actually the result of that summit. There's a lot of energy generated, and people learned a lot about the existing connections already and what's possible. But this kind of builds on that. I think the main thought here is it takes more than just that community. It takes a much broader spectrum of people, much broader spectrum of expertise, but it also takes some ownership too. And that's why I think Adam's being very deliberate about this. This can't be a NEST initiative. It has, NEST is there to support, to facilitate to a certain extent, but there has to be some ownership for this to really take off.
Great.
So Adam, you mentioned, you started out talking about the triple crises. What I'm getting from the discussion is that the main focus is the first crisis, the pandemic. Is that correct?
That's the immediate focus, absolutely.
And then would the effort go beyond that to the other crises?
Oh, I would sure hope so. And actually, that is a very important question in terms of the timing of that conversation, that part of the conversation. You know, we may have very broad agreement around the first crisis. We may have less broad agreement around the other two. Although I would say the economic part, there's probably broader agreement with that. And I may be, you know, selling us short here as a community in terms of the political side. People are obviously hurting badly economically, and energy, local, you know, the sustainability endeavors as we know them are great economic engines. And, you know, we're gonna be seeing the money pouring out of Washington, not just once, but many times. We want to be ready to do things that are productive with that. But the short answer is, yeah, the immediate focus is very much the first of the three.
Thank you.
So when framing this up, it's gonna look different than what I've been doing here. Obviously, no discussion of the history of BRISC or whatever. No, the idea is to get those best practices and to really focus around how we might make those work for us in this community, as opposed to wherever they came from. And I don't have all the answers here, so I definitely am all ears in terms of how to frame this up, both when approaching those initial decision makers and as we go.
Adam?
Hey, Adam. Hi. Maybe we should take a lesson from when it comes to public health, the anti-tobacco campaign was pretty successful in this country. You know, that might be at least an example of what can happen when all the public health officials get on the same page, right?
Just on a very accelerated timeline.
You know, and you have to, these days, I think one of the difficulties these days is there's so many outlets that people watch. You know, and 30 years ago, you could get a message to the vast majority of the people on TV.
Or channels.
On a few channels, right. Now you've got all these different media outlets, so it's harder to do that. But at the very least, if you can get all your public officials on the same page to keep repeating the message, you know, they have to be kind of tireless about that and keep repeating it. But you know, that's the example is the anti-tobacco campaign, which, yeah, that took years and years, but.
Well, we can hope that our profligate means of communication, if done correctly, can help us. But I think ultimately the silver bullet, if there is one, is that relationship of trust, respect, communication that exists already between some people and other people. And it's really harnessing the existing social networks and starting to knit them together with a common purpose.
Yeah.
And then, then frankly, we're talking sales, we're talking behavior modification, we're talking about human psychology, right? You want to change what people do, you don't hear it once from one person.
And, you know, another thing that strikes me about the pandemic is that we hit 400,000 people dead. today. Okay, so World War II, about, I don't know, 409,000 Americans died in World War II. Think about that. We have come close to, and we're gonna surpass it. The number of people dead from this virus in a year is going to exceed the number of Americans killed in World War II. So in my mind, the messaging, we should be sort of, again, thinking about what people did during World War II. There's a lot of changes in society to fight that war. And I feel like we're not even scratching the surface to get people to think in those terms. Like we are fighting a war. It's a different kind of war, but it's a war against this virus. And it's taken us out. We're losing this war. Oh.
Yeah, the number of distinctions between the late 1930s, early 1940s, and today are legion, as we know. But I think it is going to require us. Right now, I'm thinking, how can we take this step locally? Obviously, one county does not cut it, and this is actually one of the reasons why the executive director of the organization I mentioned is interested in doing this, engaging local government leaders. She feels like if we pull this off, it could be helpful to her members. And most of her members are in North America, even though they're abroad as well. So, in a way, if you want to be dry and professional about this, we might be jumpstarting a community of practice within that world around risk communication, around behavior change, around whatever, building community, whatever you want to do in the face of COVID specifically. But just having interacted with a few of the people in that organization, there's no shortage of really freaking smart, experienced people in local government across the country. They don't have much power and influence as a body yet. And maybe this will help in other ways that we can't foresee if it actually happens. Dave, I think you had a point.
Yeah. So Adam, I had a couple of questions. One, so the three issues that you wanted to address were the pandemic, the economy, and what was the third?
The political crisis.
Political.
I mean, those are the things tied together that are at the root of our issues. But as I mentioned a minute ago, the pandemic is really the leading edge here.
So there are a couple of things here. One is I would hope that in some way I may be helpful in the work that I'm engaged in right now. I hope to have published by probably mid-April, a book about launching a movement to do a lot of the things that you are suggesting. So part of the way that I would look at this is that the pandemic is really similar to climate change, it's nature. So we have a problem with us destroying the habitat in which we live, and that leads us to all sorts of consequences, transactional consequences, such as lack of food or inability to survive in arid places, or any of those kinds of things. On the economic front, that's clearly a big picture, and that if you wanted to attach an ism to it, I think it would be capitalism. We have a huge problem with capitalism. And then on the political front, it's really democracy that we're challenged with. So we have these three huge challenges. Democracy is failing us. Our economic system based on capitalism, what's good for me may not be good for you, is failing us. And we're destroying the habitat that provides us our ability to continue living on this planet. So the other thing that I think I hear you talking about is that there's an individual component, and then how do we get individuals involved? And then how do we create collectives of individuals? You mentioned groups and, you know, collections of individuals. And then how do we take that system, if you will, this growing complex. So let's say we're successful at getting individuals involved and getting them to form collections of people or groups of people. And then how do we then take that to the next level, which is creating transformational change, which is what I think you're talking about. So then you need a supportive network. And we can't do that on a local basis. It's not feasible on a local basis. It needs a broader category. And that's what this book is about launching actually a global movement based on the same things that you're talking about doing locally, absolutely connected to local. And my hope is that we would start that in Binghamton. So this is something that, and I think we will have enough resources to be able to do whatever we want to do. So I would love to be involved in some way. It's you know, probably premature, and right now my you know, limited scope of vision and limited scope, you know, mental scope capacity means I have to focus on getting this book done. That's really the launching pad for the movement, and I think it addresses all of those things in a way that might be helpful. So both here in Binghamton, but also across the country and across the world.
So first, thanks for that, those comments. There's a lot here I've been noting down that we can take from. The one thing I'll mention though is that people are already in collectives. And so we also want to bring those collectives in contact with each other. If I had had more time to prepare, I could have a nifty slide showing the difference between what are essentially pods of people where there's maybe one leader individual connected with another leader individual, and that's pretty much the extent of it, and something that's more like this, right, where you have multiple connections. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, well, I think we might bring innovation. There's a movement out there, and you might call it the Green New Deal movement or whatever. It's like movements are. It's huge. It's inchoate. It's in many ways still incipient. But a lot of these questions, certainly the economic and political questions, and the fact that COVID has exposed the contradictions, as we used to say in sociology, it is something that's fairly widely understood. I think that one of the things that we would bring to this that perhaps might be a little bit new is the very local nature of what we're trying to do. Because I do feel like because the Trumpist right has created such a chaotic and destructive space in what was the public sphere of this country, such as it was, hardly perfect. I think a lot of the transformation is going to have to come, at various levels. And without the local level, I think we're lost. And we've observed this before, right? I mean, sometimes when we talk about these knockdown dragouts between political parties on the federal level or even on the state level, when you get down to a town or a village or county, it's maybe not as bad, right? There's more people who are a bit more pragmatic because you live near these people. They know you. You have to get shit done. I'm not saying there aren't ideologues that do stupid things, but you know what I'm saying. So I think that's one thing that we bring to it. The other thing is again, I suspect that as we look, we'll find more people, is there anything new under the sun? I'm hoping we'll find other people out there that are already thinking along these lines, which is how to connect the problem of the pandemic with the problem of, social fragmentation, community division. That's a whole long thing about how late capitalism has done a bang up job at making us off in our little spaces with our little gadgets, not having much in the way of human connection with people. And COVID has only just, ratcheted that up a bit, a great bit.
Yeah. So, I could discuss this until tomorrow morning about 6 a.m. We'd still be here. So yeah, I think there needs to be context. So I agree 100%. Actually, I would go further than just saying that it has to be launched. The launching pad is the local. The launching pad is you. It's you and me. It's everybody that's on this call right now, in this meeting right now. That's the launching pad. And so once we get people involved in doing something that they want to do, and we then give them the tools to be able to translate that into a collective action at the group level, then we can start to attack all three of these different, and I would add a fourth, by the way, and I think that's racism. But
yeah, no, I agree.
So, but
I sort of folded that into the political, but it's a thing in itself, obviously.
So it really, and so what I'm talking about is none of this got hatched in my head. It's all from stuff that I've picked up over the last 25. I've been working on it for 25 years, and it took retirement for the light bulb to go off to say we have the technology to be able to do this. So now I'm just putting those pieces together, and I think it's pretty compelling. But it will do exactly what you're hoping to have done by giving an overarching objective that brings people together. The part of this that I think is that we haven't talked about, and that is the period that we're in, which is absolute chaos. And it's not just the 80-year cycle. 1930s, 2020s, or 2010. Really, we're in a 2010 80-year cycle right now, so you go back. But those cycles have happened before and again, but we're in an epochal transition as well. And that is, that's really part of what is causing the chaos. And the other part of it is that we're facing an existential threat, and we know it as human beings. Deep in our core, we know that we are about to eradicate our race. And it causes all kinds of chaotic procedures, all kinds of processes going on, including this latest election. So it's an evolutionary transition. And I don't want to go into it too much, but if you think about it, from an evolutionary standpoint, we have altruism and selfishness, right? Those are the two main genes that drive us, right? So, but there's a third that came before altruism and selfishness, and that is that we were nature. Nature isn't separate from us, we are nature. And that's what connects us all. And if we can understand and get to that interconnection, we get to that period when we transition from chaos into the next new world. And that will be a world of interconnection and interdependency. I call it the world of interbeing. And that's when we can really start talking to each other so that we understand each other. That it's no longer, I get something is good for me, but then it's bad for you. It always has to be good for both of us because we're all dependent on each other. And that will happen very, very quickly. We're well into the chaos period. And so this is partly what the book will describe. We're well into that chaos period. And once this is started, it happens very quickly. Evolutionary change, massive evolutionary change happens very quickly in relation to contemporary time. So anyway.
And the good news is that there are native peoples around the world that already know this stuff.
Absolutely right. And the good news is that we have all of this wisdom inside of us. We all have it. So that's the really good news. It's how do we bring it to the surface and begin to manifest it so that the evolutionary change happens in time to save us? And that's really the purpose of the book. And I should say the purpose of the book is to then organize people around that, around creating that transformation, facing transformation, and then doing it. So, so anyway, you know, I have it all in here. I got to get it down on paper. I have a writer working with me now. I have a co-author who is going to publish it with me, and hopefully this will.
Yeah, I just dropped my my email in the chat because I'm seeing. Thanks, Dave. I'm seeing the clock.
Yeah.
Don't want to cut people off, but I did want to ask before it gets too much later. If you are interested on any level in this, just shoot me an email. It doesn't have to specifically say what you want to do. If you have an idea, by all means, say so. You know, it could be just keep me in the loop. That works. You know, we all have a lot going on, and you know, there's different things we can bring to this. Oh, Angela, you're here. How did I not see you? She's saying good night.
Well, Adam, you've given us a lot to think
down.
about. And yes, let's take this somewhere. I don't have any promises myself, but I'd like to be involved. So I'll send you.
The other good news is that the only way this goes anywhere is if I won't call it the powers that be, but if some of the more important institutions that are engaged in fighting the pandemic right now decide that this is something that they want to take on, that's going to be a requirement. Well, thank you again very much. I meant what I said. I'm very, very touched, and I appreciate this at this time. I really needed this. So thank you.
Well, it was well deserved, Adam.
Thank you, Adam.
Yeah. Okay, everybody. We ran over a little bit. That's fine, but have a good evening. And look for more things to come your way between Nest and Sierra Club and some of the other great things that people are doing. So
thank you, Sierra Club.
Sure. All right. Good night, all.
Good night, everyone.